start with something that you need to know about. You know, my job, I feel like, is somebody that is just telling you the mile markers as we go. We are hitting another mile marker here that you really need to pay attention to because it is all about information. We have been witnessing a very disturbing trend in social media lately. The giants of Silicon Valley are attempting to control the narrative and dictate what information you have access to by punishing people like me or perhaps like you for wrongthink. Now, this is a blatant assault on your freedom of speech and my freedom of speech. And what do you know? They've decided to do this during an election year. I mean, what a coincidence.
What's going on, everyone? Talks with Kenny here today. I got a doozy one for you guys. I want to talk about censorships and the efforts that it seems like a lot of the establishment pushes and does to just lessen the reach. You know, typical liberals, they always got to put their thumb on the scales. Oh, it's only fair. Oh, we're looking out for your best interest. And to me, all this hate speech, wrong think, politicizing, like, it's politicized. It's a political camouflage. That's what it is. It's to hide their real motives. Hey, we don't want you to be exposed to misinformation. Translation: I don't want you to hear opinions that are grounded in truth and reality and facts, and there's evidence to suggest that a contrary view is more probably correct than the current narrative that's perpetuated in society. But we don't want you to hear that because we don't care about the truth. We care about you believing we believe people should have a certain perspective on a certain topic, right? And I opened up with Glenn Beck because he's sounding an alarm on independent content creators, which I'm part of that group, about efforts from climate change activist groups, or not activist groups, but nonprofit groups. And this is where his criticism is derived from. But I think in general, this is what's his criticism is more broadly applied. And conservatives have been feeling this way about a lot of things. But now a lot of these social media companies are openly acknowledging their censorship. Say, hey, look, we will deboost any content that we think are problematic. And the whole point of this video is to kind of challenge the liberals' conjectures, the liberal perception on what is true information. Like, what is the truth? If it's subjective, then you labeling it something misinformation merely means that it is a biased view. And based on your biased view, you believe that you should be allowed to augment things, remove things because it goes against your bias. But if the truth is objective, then you must acknowledge, okay, on what grounds are you resolving this? Is it factual? Yes or no? Is there evidence to back up the claim that the other side is making, that the dissenters are making? Yes. Why not let them speak? But you got these climate change these climate change exaggerators is what I like to call them, out here trying to campaign to limit and demonize or demonetize content that goes against their movement. Blaze founder Glenn Beck is sounding alarm on a new push to demonetize, essentially demonize and censor even more content concerning climate change, which is something I talk against a lot, right? With specific targets including Blaze TV, Daily Wire, and Jordan Peterson. A controversial British group called the Center for Counter Digital Hate, which has reportedly already worked with the White House, is pressuring big tech companies in the U.S. to target so-called new denial of climate change. Now, before I go into this video, I want you to get a little bit more context with what Glenn is going with this and how a lot of these nonprofit groups who are left-wing ideologues, like imagine if there was a pro-life nonprofit group pressuring the government to censor pro-choice arguments. Everyone would have a fit. I would call it down the middle. I was like, yo, if pro-life have good arguments, they should be able to debate it out with the pro-choicers. Pro-life nonprofit groups should not be allowed to pressure the government to censor them. I would say that. But let's put it on the other foot. When it's something that the left care about, all of a sudden they quiet or they act like, oh, that's not a thing. Oh, no one's doing that. They act willfully. They do plausible deniability to continue allowing the actions to continue. And here's an example of this that Glenn Beck's about to point out. So let's take a look at this clip and then I'll go further into my dialogue about the skepticism towards climate change. Let's take a look.
A notification that Facebook is making shadow banning company policy. Now, shadow banning, in case you don't know, is when a social media company allows you to post all the content that you want, but then it limits the reach that the content can hit. So it's, I call it the digital ghetto. They're just rounding everybody up that disagrees with the government, and they just put them in this little digital ghetto. There's a wall around it. Well, they can speak all they want, but nobody's going to hear them, okay? Unless you too go into the ghetto. Now, this time, at least Facebook was kind enough to tell us about it. They posted an article last week called Our Approach to Political Content. Now, Facebook admitted now that they are going to shadow ban all political content. But that's for you. That has nothing to do with like the WEF saying, we've got to silence people. We've got to make sure that people aren't misinformed with things that disagree with our policy and our direction. Now, Facebook argued that, quote, the people have told us they just want to see less political content. So we've spent the last few years refining our approach on Facebook to reduce the amount of political content, including from politician accounts. You see in feeds, reels, watch groups you should join, and pages you may like. Okay, that's interesting. Because my team started noticing, a 95% drop in our penetration on Facebook about a year ago, which is weird. Which is weird. But it'll be better for our sanity, I guess. I remember a time when Facebook begged me to join their platform. So what changed? Well, an election year, where they're scared out of their mind and they have to silence anyone that is telling you a different opinion than the overlords. I'd like to know what Facebook considers to be political content. Is advertising LGBTQ issues to kids considered political? I bet not. How about content on the benefits of abortion? Is that political? Does Joe Biden get a pass since he's the president, despite the fact that he's running for re-election? Or is it just the right-wing candidates and issues that are from the right wing that are considered political?
Wow. I always find it funny how convenient that every time something, the big tech platforms, the government, these national global organizations, every time they want to censor something, every time they label something misinformation, it always happens to be things that go against their purview, their worldview, their ideological prescriptions to these things. COVID is a big example of this. If you question COVID, you were labeled misinformation, the COVID denier, anti-vax, or whatever. Then the facts came out after they already got what they want. See, this is the problem with liberals, and this is the problem with a lot of people on the left. After you do what they want, that's when they allow the dissenting voices to be perpetrated in reality. It's after the election, then they'll let, oops, Biden's story was actually correct and accurate and objective information. Oops, sorry, but it's too late. They already got the outcome that they wanted from the censorship. And this is how they do it. They don't do it absolutely. They do it for a period of time. And once the time window is gone, that's when we were wrong. Oh, sorry. Can you forgive us for COVID? COVID was a hectic and scary place. You should understand the fear that we have. Typical tactics, right? This would include discussing information that challenges the left-wing narrative on the impacts of global warming, suggesting that some policy billed as climate solutions won't work. What's wrong with that? If I say there's a policy position you're prescribing and I say that won't work, how is that misinformation? How is that denying climate change? And arguing that climate science and the climate movement can't be trusted. It can't be trusted because you're doing stuff like this, right? And I'm gonna jump around here for a bit, but this is the website, counterhate.com. Let's see what these people have to say. 2023 was the hottest year on record ever. Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem with this, right? I have a book here. I'm gonna put it here. It's called Fossil Future, right? And this guy makes a great argument about why fossil fuels are important in society. Now, the 2023 report that this place is talking about is, I think the compared to last year, we're 1 degree hotter than we were last year. That's the hottest month, the year ever recorded ever. Wow. One. So all this time, all this argument, people are making correlations between climate change and gas, and only 1 degree higher, and it's the hottest ever. That means that there haven't been much drastic global warming then. And another talking point I have against the climate change and their narratives is that when exactly was the more preferable? What is the original state of the climate? Because at one time, the entire Earth was frozen. At one time, the entire Earth was underwater. So which is the correct climate? And it seemed like the idea of the original climate is arbitrary, because I can go at any point in history and say that's where our climate should be. We're way hotter than we were originally because this whole place was ice. But here you are. I don't name me how human activity dictated how human activity created the ice age. Let me know. But this idea that the Earth is naturally good for humanity is not the case. Humans, by our nature, we adapt the environment for our own survival. Period. The cold kills more people than the warmth. As a person who's looking at the climate change, I don't care about climate change. I'm not a climate change denier for that. I can acknowledge climate change is happening. I experienced the 4 seasons. Climate change is real, yes. But I believe the climate change movement exaggerates, catastrophizes the effects of this stuff. Groundbreaking AI-powered research showed that new climate change denial narratives that aim to undermine the climate change movement, science solutions now constitute 70% of climate denial content on YouTube in 2023. And this is why they're pressuring social media companies to censor us, to censor me, because essentially that's what I'm part of that group. But I'm not denying the climate. I'm denying your narrative about it. And that's all they really care about. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about nothing. The only factual thing they said up here was up here. And then when I give you the details of that, we only 1 degree hotter than we were last year. And that's the hottest year ever recorded. Failure after failure of their climate change predictions. And they expect us to have the same credibility to lobby government, to get government to force big tech to censor people. Imagine someone with a track record of failure over and over and over again, having enough power to censor you, where you are likely more correct than them. Imagine that. Oh, we're gonna blow up in blue steam. In the year 2000, the world's gonna end unless we do this drastic thing. Society never did it. Life moves on. Greta Thunberg, how dare you? 12 years. We're not gonna live 12 years. 12 years later, hi. These people, just like they like to call people who are skeptical of their movement, because this is all it is. They want to retain their credibility, and they cannot allow their credibility to be questioned like the journalist. That's what climate change. What do climate change people, climate change propagandists, climate change movement, and journalists have in common? They're both losing credibility in our society. So what they do? They frail. Climate misinformation is mutating on YouTube, and the platform is profiting. Oh, trying to rally their liberal base. Look at these big corporations. They're allowing misinformation to spread. Climate misinformation is rapidly mutating across social media, allowing nefarious actors to skirt restrictions and continue to profit, according to the news report. With climate-driven disasters now impossible to ignore, outright denials of climate change no longer hold up with most people. What disaster? Point me one. Hurricanes? We always had that. Floods? We always had that. I mean, Miami is a man-made island. So when people say, oh my God, Miami's going to be underwater. Well, Miami technically wasn't supposed to be there, but they forget to tell you that little bit of detail. In the murky online realm of climate misinformation, a shift in tactics is in motion. No, you're just go back to your usual playbook. Censor. I can't debate Kenny, right? And because the whole point of this is, the claim on the article is that people who deny climate change, not climate change, the climate change movements, the people who, these climate change activists, people who are critical of the climate change movement, that's who they want censored. It doesn't matter if I give you accurate information, which I'm about to explain here. Because one of the things is, hey, We shouldn't be eliminating fossil fuel because fossil fuel is responsible for 80% of our energy. How are we going to replace that when fossil fuel is the most cost-effective option that we have for energy? That's fueling our productivity. That's fueling our economy. That's fueling everything that we rely upon, right? These are the facts. Fossil fuels are a uniquely cost-effective source of energy. Is that misinformation? Cost-effective energy is essential to human flourishing. The problem with climate changers that I have with these people these climate change exaggerators, is that I care about human flourishing. I don't care about climate change. I care about climate survival, climate livability, right? I forgot what it's called. Climate danger. That's why I'm more concerned about climate danger than climate change. What's the difference, Kenny? What's the difference between climate change and climate danger? Climate change is you getting all worked up because the degree is 1 degree hotter, and then next year is going to be 1 degree colder again because seasons exist. That I don't have this framing that just because of climate change doesn't necessarily mean it's an inherent wrong or evil. Climate danger is, hey, if there's a way, can we survive this climate? Let's say climate got cold. Hey, do I have AC? Yeah, then I don't care if it's cold outside because I have the technology to adapt, because that's the human condition, to adapt. You adapt or you die, right? That's the human condition. Not to force reality to adapt to our whims and worldviews. This is one of the part of, I think, climate activists think they're gods. They arbitrarily decide this is where the earth should be at. And then we have to change our entire lifestyle to make sure that the climate doesn't get hotter or colder. The only climate change you can control is in your house. Sorry. If that makes me a climate change denier, so be it. But I care about the danger of the climate change. If you're telling me the hottest degree ever in 2023 was only 1 degree hotter than 2022, that's not a climate danger to me. That's not dangerous to me. And I don't hear people in the comment section going, but look at the trends. There's no trend. It goes up, it goes down. It hasn't been consistently going up over a span of a long time span. That's why I say fossil fuels, there's no correlation with fossil fuels in global warming. So why are you demonizing fossil fuels for the earth getting hotter? My argument is I think the earth would still be hot like now with or without human activity. That's my argument anyway. And even if it was some correlation with fossil fuels, my argument is it's not enough to justify doing all this push for censoring people because they disagree with your designated experts. And the final point, billions of people are suffering and dying for a lack of cost-effective energy. And this is the point, right? Because in reality, alternatives such as solar, wind have been fiercely trying to compete with fossil fuels over 50 years. Yet fossil fuels still provide 80% of the world's energy, 4 times as much as any alternative combined. And it's still growing fast. Fossil fuels has remarkable natural attributes, and I don't want to go into it. But further, because the sun and wind are intermittent, uncontrollable sources of energy, that 3% is totally dependent on reliable and power plants around the world, mostly fossil fueled. That means the backup energy. That means solar and wind is so unreliable, right? Because fossil fuels it just make economic sense, right? They talk about China. While in the U.S. we are told that China's eating our lunch with solar and wind. The reality is that China's energy production is 85% fossil fuel. China's eating our lunch not in using solar and wind, but in using fossil fuels, including electricity that is 64% coal to produce energy in its growing economy requires. Essentially, the argument that this guy is doing in the fossil fuel industry is that cost-effective energy is key to human productivity, human flourishing. And if you use less of it, you're essentially handicapping yourself as a nation in competing with the productivity of countries that will use fossil fuels like India and China. Right? And my biggest point here is that, and we're going back to it, like these groups, look, they're nonprofit research groups. Like we always talk about separation of church and state. How this is not authoritarian. We want large swath of society to change based on the whims of a select few individuals that have the ear of the government. That's not how our society goes. American journalism is not heading for an existential level event. Corporate journalism is, and deservedly so, including The Atlantic, is not even Steve Jobs' inherited wealth can save. Independent journalism is thriving, and that's what I believe I am. I believe I am an independent journalist. Because you think you're going to hear this on the corporate media? I just gave you some verifiable facts. You can challenge me in the comment section and we can have a discussion about it. It's not like these corporate, they just sit here, talk to you, and then you just expect to just take it. No, you can fight back. You can debate me back on the comment section. I'll listen. I'll hear. Right? Censorship only benefits the left because they have no argument. This is why I made a video and I got chastised for it in the comment section. Leftists hate critical thinkers. Here's news stories based on the censorship category. You know, this is why I love Daily Wire. That's why I'm a subscriber. I can categorize everything and show you every event that happened, and you can do your own research. Amazon cave. Jim Jordan posts evidence that White House pressured Amazon to censor books. Now, imagine if someone, like, let's think of it, the example, a nonprofit research group pressured the government to censor books. What if it was about gayness? Oh, that's wrong. Okay, but why are you censoring books that question gayness? Either everybody can do it or nobody can do it. That's the only thing government should be. That's the only thing that government should care about. Government shouldn't be trying to tip the scales. That's the government trying to tip the scales is like a referee trying to tip the scale in the favor. Oh, it's kind of unfair. This team is taller. Let's give more calls to the little guy. No, it's a foul, ref, or it's not a foul. That's all we care about. We just want you to referee the game. Government, referee the game. These nonprofit groups going to the government is like me begging the ref for a call to help me win the game. And this is what's going on here in this ideological battle right now. This is political camouflage. This is why science has become politicized. Because the nonprofit counter hate, so-called counter hate, are blinded by their ideological bias, and they take actions to omit or remove the contrary opinion out of the public sphere, or put a handicap on them, or or give themselves an advantage, so that way their message is more boosted, so that way they get public perception, regardless if what they're saying is true or accurate or not. And the only thing you can verify accuracy is with challenge. Facts can withstand scrutiny, propaganda can't, and that's the reality. This is why no one trusts the mainstream media. This is why no one trusts corporate journalists. This is why everyone is tired of liberals. Because you guys liberals have this fake, this presumed credibility. They act like they are credible. No, you're not. You got to prove credibility. And then I'll end off my last point. I know I've been hammering the climate change stuff, but it's just a big example because this is what's leading a lot of this effort, right? Facts about the massive benefits of cost-effective energy to human flourishing includes its massive benefit to areas of concern such as safety for the climate, environmental quality, and resource availability. Our ability to create housing, suburban areas, air conditioning in our house. All this is fueled by fossil fuels. And it's 85% responsible for this. And solar and wind is only responsible for 3%. And it's very expensive just to manage that 3% for solar and wind. So imagine solar and wind trying to carry the bulk of the energy load from fossil fuels. Now you see why California has rolling blackouts. But hey, don't listen to me, because according to counter hate, I'm spreading misinformation. When if you ask counter hate, hey, can you counter any of these points that Kenny made here? Don't listen to him, misinformation. Like they said in the debate, if you have to call somebody a name, you already lost. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with this censorship effort that's being led by these left-wing groups? Do you disagree with me about climate change and some certain aspects of the ideological slant and enforcement that censorship is used against independent content creators? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.